all about being neurodivergent and communication, and some of the challenges that being neurodivergent comes with. So for those of you that don't know me and may be new to this channel, my name is Jacqui G, and I'd love it if you subscribe if you're interested in empowerment. And also, sorry, my voice is cutting out. Great way to start a live, right? But my work is all about empowerment, being true to you, and living life that is amazing for you. Now, we all know that life is full of challenges, and a recent live I did a couple of days ago was connected to stress and drama and how that can impact our health and well-being. But one of the things that I noticed, even as I was doing that live, communication that has come about ever since, just on different topics, is that as a neurodivergent person, so I have my diagnosis, but I also understand that my traits are unique to me, but other people may have one or two of the same traits as me. But one of the things I noticed was the way a neurotypical person communicates is very different to how a neurodivergent person communicates. So if you're watching this live, then feel free to comment. If you're watching the replay, you won't see the live comments, but you're more than welcome to share along the way as you watch the video of some of the things that you find that you may resonate with or you may not. One of the things that when I do presentations and I take people through, whether it's through team building with businesses, whether it's individually or even at one of my events, is I take people through a specific strategy. And that strategy works every time. It gives people their blueprint. So we call it unique success signature now. We used to call it code, but we call it signature now. And every single time people leave the room with that blueprint, they feel confident in themselves to then go out and implement that in their life. And recently I asked a few people and I said, so there's some neurotypical people in here and there's some neurodivergent people in here, and yet you all walked out with the same feeling of confidence and a little bit more certainty in achieving your goals. And yet the way we all communicate as neurodivergent and neurotypical people is very different. Often I, as a neurodivergent person, misunderstand people. Like, have you ever had that experience where you're communicating with someone and you know clearly in your head what it is you want to say, and you think that that's what you may be typing out or that's what you're saying, and they completely misunderstand you? Like, just completely miss the point. Or what about those times when you are sitting with people and the conversation is going and you just can't keep up with it? It's like, oh, I thought we were talking about Hawaii, but now we're talking about politics. Like, hold on, where did that change and what happened? Or what about the storyteller, the person that you meet maybe at a party or something, and they first ask about you, but then you share with them, oh yes, we recently went to Hawaii, it was beautiful, and that person then goes on and on and on all about their trip to Hawaii. Okay, guys, I am on my phone, so when I squint in, it's so I can read the comments. Usually in that situation, because someone talks faster than the person could hear. Thank you for sharing, and I can't quite see your name, so as that moves up, but I thank you for that comment. Yes, so that's the other thing. Great point about the person speaking faster than the person can hear. It's also not even that they speak fast, it's also the processing time. So here's something that I learned and working with psychologists when I developed my personality profile, was that often people with neurodivergent traits can process information quite fast. So they take the key points, and unless there's a storyteller, like if it's a storyteller, they switch off. But they grab the points really fast, and then they're, okay, oh yeah, okay, I've got the point. But what happens is it takes time for a true response. So sometimes it's more of a reaction to actually be expressed. So people say I talk really fast when I become excited, and the volume when I'm speaking goes up the more animated and excited I am. But also what happens is that if I'm in a room and there's a lot of noise going on around me, my voice will go up as well. And people will be going, shh, like quieten down. And I won't hear it and I won't notice it. So what I attempt to do is to try and slow things down. But then in my head, I'm actually getting bored. Like I'm ready to move on because things can be quite rapid. So I find that especially now when there's a lot of communication online, that often things get misinterpreted no matter who it is, but also as our own personality. So in my world, I have 5 profiles that I've developed. The quiz is free. If you want to have a bit of fun, you can do the quiz. But each of those 5 personalities have different communication styles. And then you add into that neurodivergence, and it's like, oh, a world full of miscommunication. And sometimes people become offended. So, example of that, recently I saw some misinformation online, just in regards to an area that I work in. So I said, actually, that's not quite correct. So I tried to tone it down because the inside voice of me was saying, nope, they're completely wrong. Like blunt, nope, that's wrong. And then I realized that if I had have said, no, you're wrong, that person, and past experience has taught me this, that person would become upset. They could take what I'm saying the wrong way. But it takes a lot of energy. I don't know, do you find it takes a lot of energy to sit back and actually not just react in your response, but to take the time to actually respond and maybe think about how it could be received by someone else? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. If you feel free to hit a comment there, that'd be great. And I'd love it if you hit the like button as well. That'd be appreciated. Good morning, and thank you for being here. I have trouble seeing the names, so I appreciate you saying good morning. So we're talking about communication and neurodivergence. So we've got MT, and I can't see MT Honor 25. Hello, thank you for being here. Love it if you guys would hit the like button as well. Thank you. So talking about communication, especially as a neurodivergent person, and how this can lead to a lot of miscommunication. So recently I went and worked with a team of 15 people in their business. And the owner had said to me, look, half of our staff are neurodivergent and the other half are neurotypical. And I said, okay, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. And as I shared at part of the video, I took the whole team through this strategy that I have called Unique Success Signature. You all have seen it called Code before. And every single person got value out of it. But I questioned how we could have miscommunication between neurodivergent and neurotypical people, yet with the one strategy, so everybody did the same thing, everybody got immense value out of it. They have their blueprint, they're ready to go and implement it. In fact, the feedback from that business has been they are implementing it and things have been so much better. She said, how did you do that? Well, it was because I keep taking the feedback that I get and thinking about how do we all communicate? It's not as simple as just writing words. It's not as simple as having an intention to communicate a certain way. It's actually a lot bigger than that. And because of my neurodivergent traits, I often dig deep. Just reading through. So the difference between ADHD, difference between adults and children. If you're explaining something, it takes two times for adults, and children 3 to 5 times. And good morning, my name is Passa. Thank you for sharing, Passa. I appreciate that. Yeah, you are right. The thing is, though, that often with a lot of adults, that repetition, they don't hear, because as adults, they've got so many more things going on. So often in children, and the studies that I've done with early childhood development, and that is that it's how it's all delivered, whether it's adults or children, because children learn through playing. Now that's just broad, because now we know all about developmental delay. We know about autism and ADHD. Good morning, and I can't quite see your name. Sentai Ago to Joe. Sorry, I can't see your name properly, but thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So when it comes to neurodiversity and communication and neurodivergence, it's really about where can we meet in the middle to understand where people are coming from. Because everybody wants their message heard. Everybody wants to feel heard. Everybody wants to feel like they belong somewhere, somehow. We might look at it and go, why would you want to belong over there? But that's not ours to judge. Everybody's life is different. So when it comes to communication, the successful communication comes from being able to stop and take a moment to learn how you communicate and how you process information, so that when you're hearing it or when you're reading it, you can have strategies in place. Oh, Santiago, thank you for being here all the way from Argentina. I appreciate the greetings here in Australia. People often say, don't tell people where you're from, but hey, you can hear my accent. I don't know, maybe I'm an Australian in another country, but no, I appreciate you being here. So how do you communicate? What is your communication style? And have you noticed that sometimes you completely do not understand what a person is saying? So you go ahead and guess what they're saying, and then maybe you've got it wrong, and then that's built out turmoil, whether it's been in your team, in relationships, things have broken down. What have you found? Have you found that you say something all well intended, but it just didn't come across that way? Nice. Yes, I was not sure. I thought you were British. Oh, no. I actually get more of a Canadian touch to my accent versus British. I'm far from British. I have Native Indian, American Indian in my heritage as well. So, but thank you for sharing. But yours is clearer. Oh, thank you. I'm glad. I do my best to slow things down, because especially today we're talking about communication. So if you're watching the replay as well, I'd love for you to share, what are your strengths in communication? And if you are neurodivergent, have you actually developed some strategies to help you in social settings? One of the things is that for some people who have both autism and ADHD, is it can actually be a struggle to and fro on social settings. So the ADHD part may love to be out socializing, a bit of spontaneity, having fun, but then what happens is that the autism is like, where are we going? What time do we have to be there? How many other people will be there? Is there anything on the menu that I can eat? Like, there's a lot more that goes into it for the person that has more autism traits. Now, I'm no expert here. I'm just speaking on a broad text, and always follow your medical and professional guidance and direction, your psychologist, your doctors, whomever you work with, your team. I'm sharing a lot from my personal growth and experience, and also working with people who are neurodivergent, as well as my own experience. The biggest thing is that when it comes to communication, as I've said earlier, we all have our own style. We all have our own way that we connect with other people. And one of the biggest things that you can do is know how you connect and how you understand other people, and not be afraid to say, could I have some clarity on that? One of the biggest things, the biggest mistakes I have made throughout my career, throughout my life, is being too afraid to say, could you please clarify what you mean by that? Or did you mean this? And the reason I didn't want to ask those questions is because I thought I should know. I was really hard on myself because I lived up to the expectations of other people, which then led to people pleasing, which then gave them the message that they could just expect that I would fall in line with their way of communicating or their way of being. And the more I studied behavioral profiling, and the more I studied human behavior by watching people and watching how they interacted, I realized that nobody should have to fit one way. We are all unique. We are all amazing. So what if we were comfortable enough to say, so did you, like, what do you mean by this? Like, can you clarify what's expected of me? Like, just that getting that idea of what do they actually mean. It takes practice, so I will share that with you, because I know that in some of the social media groups that I'm in, especially around part of the work I do, is that it's really hard to not just react and write, oh, hold on, no, that's wrong, or whatever that is. I'm going to try and read this. I'm very good at my work, but difficult for me to explain how to solve things, or what are the important things for me to solve. Others don't understand and don't care. Yes, thank you for sharing, Santiago. That is really good point. And then I'm just going to read the next one, which is, I've been doing a study for my autistic children. My oldest son, not going to mention names, and then my youngest takes, my youngest talk is more than my oldest. My younger is 3 years and my oldest is 6. Yep. My youngest son is repeating every word you say right now. Well, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, children all learn at different paces, and working with specialists who actually understand autism and ADHD is so important. Like, getting that right information. For me, my diagnosis was late diagnosis, so, and especially being a female, so I had to mask a lot. My oldest son never speaks at all. He was always quiet. Yes, please make sure that you keep following your specialist's direction and guidance for your oldest child. That's so important. Everybody speaks when they're ready, but at the same time, I don't know your family, I don't know your children, and I am not the specialist I'm not going to give you any advice except for keep following the professional support and advice. That's really important. When it comes to diagnosis with ADHD and autism, every country does that differently. And the thing is that parents know their children, but what's also important to know is that it's getting the right support for your children. But for adults who are like diagnosis, it's like, where do we fit in? How do we do it? We've developed habits and ways of protecting ourselves for all these years. And I know that a lot of the time I was labeled as just being different, labeled as being loud, labeled as, carefree and not thinking about anyone else, all those things. I'm neurodivergent, and the most difficult about communication is when I need to defend myself. Oh, great point, Santiago. Great point. Yes. So, do you know why that is? Like, do you know why it is that it is really hard for you to defend yourself? I can share a little story. So I spent some time with a friend who is diagnosed with ADHD. And so he likes to be on the go all the time. Now, there's a few other things going on with that person that I'm not going to... It has some narcissism in there as well. And for me, whilst I have ADHD traits, I do like a bit of calm as well. So for things like if we were going to sit at a restaurant for a meal, he would be looking around, he'd have to be talking to everybody, he'd have to be on the go, right? But for me, even though I don't like to sit still a lot, I needed calm. Now, I remember sitting there going, and he's getting up and down and moving around was actually driving me crazy. And so I said, look, if you need to keep getting up and going and walking around and doing all that, please go outside for a walk and I will text you when your food is here. Because for me, I just wanted to enjoy the space, the environment, the food. I really wanted to sit and be present in the environment versus somebody going all around. So I said, hey, can you just stop and do that? And he's like, no, I can do whatever I want. But I had trouble explaining that he was actually causing some stress within me. He didn't get it, and it was actually really hard for me to explain why that behavior, which I didn't say he couldn't do, but how it was actually causing me stress in a way, because sometimes it's a feeling. Sometimes it's, I just can't explain it, but I'm starting to feel triggered. I'm starting to feel anxious. And that happens a lot in work environments too, because as I learned as time went by, it was that overstimulation that I was responding to. So in my body, with that constant moving and the constant up, down, talking to people, like everything, the noise in the restaurant, the lights, a lot of it I could handle, but there came a point where I started to be triggered. And this is what I found also happens in workplaces. Now, what I've introduced into some workplaces working with their team is understanding our personality profile, how we communicate, and then on top of that, our neurodivergent traits. Yes, noise and lights are a problem. Yeah, because they're stimulating. So whenever we're in an environment where we're trying to explain the situation or why we might be feeling triggered, it can be hard sitting in that environment where you're feeling a little triggered, that is overwhelming, to then explain your neurodivergent traits a little more. Because if a person doesn't feel overwhelmed, if they love the noise, the lights and everything else, and it's not too much for them, it's actually energizing them, it's really hard for them to understand why it can be triggering for someone else. Now, I don't know about each of you, but one thing I've also noticed as being neurodivergent is that a lot of neurotypical people say, oh yeah, everybody experiences overwhelm. Okay, do you experience it to the point where you feel like shaky and you just want to pull the blankets up over your head because it's like too much to deal with? It's all that processing. It's everything that's coming at you all at once. But because they can adapt, they actually don't see it being a problem, if that makes sense. So if someone can adapt to a situation, can not like doesn't necessarily go into every intricate detail of everything, and can, respond in a way that's socially appropriate and do that. And then maybe at the end of the day, they're exhausted from doing that, but they don't get triggered by all the stimulation. They can shut out the lights or the noise. As I said earlier, one of the reasons I get louder with my voice, which I don't notice initially, is, and I'm putting strategies in place to help me notice it sooner. But when my voice is getting louder in a conversation, it's because of the stimuli that's around me, because everything for me is at that same level. And it's not until I can pick up, which sometimes I miss, a social cue that's letting me know, oh, your voice is getting louder, you're getting more animated. Like, sometimes the animation is good, but sometimes it becomes too much for the listener or the people around me. But don't always know, because of that sensory processing that I personally have. Now, I'm not saying everybody that's neurodivergent has those same sensory processing issues, because some people aren't impacted. I like to be around children, but they can make me nervous. Oh, okay. Quiet, quick. Not sure what quiet, quick means, Santiago, but is that the children that you're talking about, or just a share? Either way, appreciate it. So when I work with somebody, when we're doing coaching, one of the things I always love them to do is the ISOL personality profile quiz. The ISOL personality profile quiz, for those of you that don't know, is a fun quiz, and you answer the questions based on what you're feeling, what is right for you, and out of that you'll get one of 5 personality profiles. So you may be an innovator, maybe an adventurer, you may be a stabilizer, you may be an optimistic, or a relationship builder. And then from there, and this is what I do when I work with teams as well, is we go through that strategy of knowing what your blueprint to empowered success ultimately is. And we take into effect neurodivergent traits and your communication style. But the biggest thing that you can do if you are neurodivergent and you have your triggers is knowing your triggers really well, to be able to pick them up early. And then from there, once you know those triggers really well, what you can do is think about your strategies that you could implement in when you start to become triggered. Is it you take yourself off to the bathroom just for a moment, wash your hands, do some deep breathing? Like, what is it that your strategies are that when you start to feel overwhelmed, when you start to feel that the stimuli that's around you is too much? And for some people, and I experienced this, I was in a shared office and there was one person and they would constantly tap on their desk when they were thinking. And that tap, tap, tap was like, okay. And they were just thinking, and the rest of the room was quiet. And there's this tap, 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 and then tap, tap, tap. And I'm like, well, at least I have rhythm, but it's really annoying me. But who am I to say, don't do that? I think it's Isaac. Hi, Isaac, good child. Not sure what your nothing comment is too, so maybe catch me up. I might have missed it. But thank you for being here, and thank you for all those that have hit that like button. So when it comes to neurodiversity and communication, and if you know that there's situations or triggers that are potentially, feeling overwhelming to you, knowing what they are, and then taking your time to really get to know those triggers and then what you can do early on can help you have a bit of a plan in your workplace, in your relationships, when you go to social settings, things like that. And one of the things I used, it's a tool I developed myself, or a strategy I developed myself, which is KBA. It's a bit of a check-in that I do on a regular basis, and I teach it at my events and online and through my memberships. Like, we teach it there. But the biggest thing is that while I'm doing my KBA check-in, I'm actually grounding myself and I'm sitting focused on what I'm actually doing. Sorry, I wanted to say that yesterday I went to watch a football match with a friend and his daughter was there. She was very young and she was playing with me and she was bothering me at the time with the noise she makes and at the speed at which she moves. It made my nervous system. It was something I cannot stand. Okay, thank you for sharing, Santiago. So in that instance, what could you do? What is your way to handle that situation? And if you can think about some strategies that you could help with that, then what that could mean is the next time you go to the football game and the child is there, that you implement those without upsetting her. Because that's the other thing, is that we can have what we need to feel comfortable, to be able to stay somewhere, but the thing is that not everybody's going to understand it, which is a huge part of this live today. And with a lot of people not understanding it, it then becomes a wave. If we can understand what our triggers are, if we can understand how to recognize them early and have a strategy, it actually makes it better for everybody concerned. So a huge part of that is where we know. So I know that if I'm at a cafe where there's a lot of light, there's a lot of people, I'm trying to concentrate, then it's probably not the right space for me to be in if I'm trying to concentrate. But some days it's the perfect place for me to be. But what do I do when I feel triggered, when I feel like, oh no, I'm done, my nervous system is starting to make me, I have to go. I'm starting to feel on edge, I have to go. I have a situation. I lived in New York for some reason when I was out grocery shopping. Anywhere I get stopped by, okay, police, and they say that I don't look like my, okay, I'm sorry, I can't help with that one. I'm just gonna actually leave that one. That's not for this conversation, but I do wish you all the best with it. I'm not going to go into that conversation. So one of the biggest things with being neurodivergent and communication is understanding how do you communicate, and it goes beyond neurodivergent traits. So for example, in the profiles that we have, innovators actually will communicate in a way that's more visionary and like almost describing the picture for you. And a stabilizer will like to keep everything calm and steady. The adventurer has a lot of energy about their communication style. So they're full of energy, they're full of life. The optimistic can see both sides of every story. So they tend to actually look at the different ways that things happen, and that there's just, they will have a rounded approach to their communication. And then relationship builders are all about helping people to connect and feel like they stay connected. So we are all different, and it's not just neurodivergence in communication that is different, but a lot of times those of us that have neurodivergent traits take things very literal, and it is okay to ask for clarity so that you can respond rather than react. Because one of the biggest things with reaction, and when we talked about stress and drama, often we react to that drama situation, and then that causes us stress. One of the things is, when we know ourselves so well, what we get to do is understand how we communicate with other people, irrespective of whether we're neurodivergent or not. That comes into play. And at times, it feels like those of us who are neurodivergent are often explaining ourselves more than the person that is neurotypical. But in other times, there's this level of confidence and certainty that it is what it is. And this is who I am, and this is how I communicate. And people are so happy and confident in who they are that if people don't understand them, they just go, okay, that's fine. Sorry, Jacqui, I gotta go. It was nice and helpful to hear your views and opinions. I did subscribe, thank you. Thanks, Santiago, for being here, and have a great rest of the day. Appreciate people being here. So here we are with communication. Also, it's all about choosing the conversations and your tonality. I know that a friend of mine, I shared something with her the other day, and she goes, I don't have space for all of that. And I immediately went into, oh, I shouldn't have shared what was going on. So I wrote that back to her. I said, sorry, I know you got a lot on, shouldn't have shared. And she goes, no, I'm happy to hear you. I'm telling you that, you're on track, you're doing the right thing. And it was this complete misunderstanding of what each other was saying. And the big thing is that if you feel like you're misunderstanding what people are saying, or people are coming back at you and you're feeling down and you're feeling anxious, please get the right help and support for you. Please reach out to specialists that can help you and guide you properly for your situation, because each of us deserves the very best in life, and each of us deserves to feel safe in what we're doing. So if you are finding that you're having trouble with your communication, or you're feeling like you're upset, or you're not being heard, please always seek the right support from professionals, because, as I said, your safety is important. And take the time, as I said, to know how you communicate. Are you visionary and need to share the story? Do you like to keep the status quo and everything's calm and going with the flow? Are you more of an optimistic and upbeat? Or are you that adventurer that every day really is an adventure, including how you communicate? Or are you the relationship builder who likes to connect people? Which one are you? Feel free to leave a comment. Thank you for everyone that's liked. If you're part of the replay crew, then please hit that like button as well. If you've liked it and found it's of some value, please feel free to share it with other people. And I appreciate each of you being here. You are amazing, and thanks for watching.